My name is Dan Richer from Razza in Jersey City, New Jersey. I'm here at Ooni headquarters and we're making meatballs. Who doesn't love meatballs? They're delicious, they're comforting, they bring you back to childhood. They're the perfect side dish with pizza. So the first part is a little bit of simple tomato sauce. We have an induction burner here that I'm gonna turn on. So we're gonna start with a little bit of olive oil. We have the pot over medium-high heat to start. And we're gonna be pretty generous with our olive oil. And I have an onion. It's actually a half of a large onion. You can use garlic. You don't have to use onion. You don't have to use garlic. The only ingredients that have to be in here are the tomato sauce and the olive oil. It's very flexible. I like a little bit of onion, and we're gonna cook it pretty slowly and gently. And lately I've been using a little bit of carrot in my tomato sauce. I love it for a little bit of sweetness and a tiny bit of texture that you won't even notice there. So I'm just gonna grate this carrot. Okay, so we got a little bit of onion, a little bit of carrot, and we just wanna cook this enough. We don't want browning on it. We're not looking for caramelization. We just want the onions and the carrot to soften a bit. So our onions are softened. We're gonna add just a tiny bit of crushed red pepper. I like a little bit of heat, but not too much. And then we're gonna add our tomatoes. Let's just do it all. So we're gonna cook this very slowly, very gently. We don't want it to come to a boil per se. We want just a gentle simmer. So we're gonna do this nice and slow. And we're gonna watch, we're gonna listen. Let's move on to the meatballs. The first thing we're gonna do is take our day-old bread. This is the magic in meatballs. At the restaurant, we actually use our day-old bread and we soak it in buttermilk that we get because we make butter at the restaurant, so we have a ton of buttermilk, but milk works. You can even use water to soften your old bread. We're gonna use milk. And this is the first thing we do because we wanna let this bread hydrate. We wanna really get it nice and soft. And depending on how old your bread is, will determine how long you have to let it soak. You want it to be nice and soft. So while our bread's softening, let's take care of the rest. Let's start with the meat. We have beef and pork. We're gonna add a little bit of onion. I like a really finely minced onion. A little bit of Parmigiano Reggiano, about a half a cup. Some cracked black pepper, salt, and 2 eggs. The eggs are what bind the meatball together and helps it hold its shape. So now we're ready to mix. I like to use gloves because it keeps my hands clean and it's just more hygienic. There's no secret way to do this. We're just gonna thoroughly incorporate everything. Do want this to be pretty homogeneous. So we're really gonna mix longer than you think. We don't wanna see any areas where there's all beef or all pork or any egg. You want it to be thoroughly mixed. So now that our bread's been soaking, you'll see it absorbed all that milk. We're gonna add the bread to the meat. I like to give it a gentle squeeze because we don't really want all that excess milk in there. We just want it to soften the bread. All right, so at this point, we're gonna mix in the bread, but we're gonna actually mix pretty gently. We want it to be fully incorporated, but we don't wanna overmix it. That will change the texture of the meatball. And you can see this is an obscene amount of bread. The bread to meat ratio is pretty high. It's a lot of bread. Trust me, have faith. These will be the best meatballs that you ever make. And this is a very basic meatball recipe. You can add other things into it. The main thing is the meat to bread ratio. All right, it's time to scoop the meatballs. We have our Ooni cast iron pan here. We're going to drizzle just a touch of oil on the bottom and we're gonna start shaping our meatballs. I like to use an ice cream scoop. You're looking for golf ball sized meatballs. If you use an ice cream scoop, I like to not overwork it. I don't want perfect meatballs. I like the imperfections. I try to celebrate imperfections because they're natural. There are a lot of meatballs that we're gonna make here. You can freeze these for up to 3 months and it makes a great weeknight meal. I think in my career, I've probably made millions of meatballs. We want to give the meatballs a little bit of space in between each other, and that'll help them brown. Okay, perfectly imperfect meatballs. We're ready to bake. Okay, we got our tomato sauce barely bubbling away, and we're ready to go. It's time to bake the meatballs. We have an Ooni Caro 16 and a Volt. We're gonna use both. So they're both thoroughly preheated. And now I'm gonna turn the oven way down, and you'll see the temperature is going to fall into place. I've got this one set to 450. This one is going to drop in temperature. So these meatballs are pretty dense, so we need to bake at a very low temperature. We're not gonna bake at 800 degrees by any means, but I like to start at that higher temperature because cast iron is very heavy and it'll take a lot of heat to heat up that cast iron. These are gonna bake for 20 to 25 minutes. We're looking for deep caramelization on the outside, and we want the meatballs to be fully cooked on the inside. It's time to take the meatballs out. Look at that. Gorgeous. Golden brown, deep dark caramelization. That caramelization is really good flavor. We're gonna put the meatballs into the sauce, and that's gonna let all the flavors of the meatballs permeate the tomato sauce. It's gonna be so good. So the meatballs have been sitting in the sauce for a few minutes, and now we're gonna taste the sauce and adjust for any seasoning. Needs a little bit more salt. There we go. All right, it's time to plate. This is how we serve them at the restaurant. And the crowd goes wild. I like a generous dollop of really good ricotta cheese right in the middle. I love the hot-cold contrast between the meatballs and the cheese. And the Parmigiano Reggiano. Make it snow. I always finish with just a drizzle of really good olive oil. I have to taste these. So good. It's so light and delicate. It's a good meatball. I'm Dan Richer from Razza here at Ooni headquarters, and that's how we make meatballs.